You're listening to
Catholic Sprouts,
the daily podcast for Catholic kids that strives to plant seeds of faith.
Greetings, young Squire Sprouts. Today is the 5th day in the 3rd month in the year of our Lord 2022. My name is Sir Roland Paterlot, and you're listening to Saturdays with Sir Roland on Catholic Sprouts, where every Saturday we discuss the art of dragon slaying. Young squires, we've now entered the season of Lent, and Lent is the perfect time to be trained in the art of dragon slaying and learn about the vile dragons that we will face in life. Before I begin to introduce you to some of the common and notorious species of dragon, we must define our terms. I've said this before, but it's important you understand that when we say dragon, we're not talking about dinosaur-like creatures with wings. We aren't talking about mythical dragons, we're talking about real dragons. And real dragons are the sin, vice, temptations, and obstacles to becoming saints that we're going to face our whole lives. One of my favorite quotes from the Catechism of the Catholic Church says this: "The whole of man's history is the story of dour combat with the forces of evil, stretching, our Lord tells us, from the dawn of creation until the end of days, and finding himself in the midst of a battlefield, man has to struggle to do what is right, and it comes at a great cost to himself, aided by God's grace, that he succeeds in achieving his own inner integrity." So you see, we must prepare for spiritual battle. The Catechism says we have 3 main opponents, which includes the pleasures of the world, the devil and his minions, and the flesh, which is that concupiscence word that describes our tendency to sin. Another effect of original sin that is not washed away in baptism, because we all have a free will, and we face many internal battles through our whole life that we have to choose to do good. That means nobody can stop us from becoming saints except ourselves. Dragon slaying is about making good choices. It's about choosing good over evil, choosing virtue over vice, choosing light over darkness, choosing the best version of yourself over a lesser version of yourself. It's about choosing the saint that's inside of you. And none of this is possible without choosing to accept God's grace, the secret weapon to slaying dragons. And that takes training. Just like an athlete, we need to study our opponents and train our wills through prayer, fasting, and almsgiving. So you see, Lent is the perfect time to become a dragon slayer. Now I know this whole week you've been discussing the deadly sin of anger or wrath. And to help you in my Dragon Slayer 101 course, we're going to be using my good friend Sir Wyvern Pugilist's Dragon Slayer's Manual. Now see, Sir Wyvern is very good at using analogies and helping us to recognize our vices by giving dragons a picture and a name so we can study our opponents. The 2 dragons in his manual that we need to be aware of when it comes to anger are Malefactor and Bucephalus. Sir Wyvern's symptoms of exposure to stench of these dragons include abuse, persecution, and injustice for Malefactor, and constant anger, fighting, and bullying for Bucephalus. Now, Sir Wyvern draws an image of these dragons using 2 heads because he calls them sinister dragons. Sinister dragons have 2 heads because they have 2 methods of attack. One is when you yourself are tempted to persecute or bully others because of your own anger. The other is when you are a victim to someone else being influenced by dragons and they're bullying or persecuting you. Or maybe you're witnessing them bully someone else. So how do we defend ourselves and slay these dragons? Well, you must remember the armor of God that St. Paul talked about in Ephesians chapter 6, that you learned about just a few weeks ago on Catholic Sprouts. One piece of the armor was the boots of peace. Boots, or shoes, can help us do one of 2 things. They can help us run away, or they can help us stand our ground. If you're angry and you're tempted to harm other people, you need to put on the shoes of peace and run away from that dragon, run away from that temptation. If you're being bullied or you're witnessing someone else be bullied, you might need to stand your ground and proclaim the truth of the gospel that Jesus is the Prince of Peace and that we are called to treat all people with charity and respect. St. Paul is a great coach and knows so much about dragons and weapons and armor because he himself was heavily influenced and wounded by dragons, especially malefactor, and Bucephalus. He was filled with rage and anger at the Christians because he thought they were a threat to his Jewish faith, and so he persecuted and even helped murder some of them, including St. Stephen, the first martyr. But then one day, and you know the story, on the road to Damascus, St. Paul encountered Jesus. In fact, Jesus knocked him to the ground with a bright light and said, "Saul, Saul," that was his Jewish name, "why are you persecuting me?" And Saul was blinded by the light for 3 days before he regained his sight. Maybe Jesus took away his eyesight to symbolize that his anger was causing him to have the wrong view of the world and of Christianity. Just like in baptism, we are drowned in the waters of baptism so we can rise to a new life. Paul lost his old eyesight and then regained a new vision of the world. When he got his sight back, he knew Jesus was really God, and he stopped persecuting Christians and started spreading the good news of the gospel to the ends of the earth. He even loved and forgave the people who persecuted him. So you see, he slayed both head 1 and head 2 of malefactor and Bucephalus. So this week, I want you to be sure to put on the full armor of God, including the boots of peace. And I want you to slay the dragons of malefactor and Bucephalus by being kind and befriending other people. Now beware, malefactor and Bucephalus are most likely to tempt you not when you're out in public or with strangers, but more often than not, it's when you are at home with your brothers and sisters in your own family. Now that's all the time we have for today. I do hope you are enjoying our little discussions every Saturday. If you have questions, ideas, topics, or fan mail that you would like to send me, please send those to my Squire John by sending an email to john@extraordinarymission.com. If you're angry and you have complaints about the show, you can send those to complaints@complaining.com. And whoever chose that email address, I'm sure will be happy to receive those. So until next Saturday, I leave you under the protection of St. Michael the Great Archangel, St. Joseph the Terror of Dragons, and Mary, Queen of the Angels, Our Lady of Grace, and the woman whose seed crushed the head of the dragon.
That's it for Catholic Sprouts today. We'll be back tomorrow, but until then, continue to grow in your faith and truly sprout into the beautiful creation that God created you to be.
Hey, one more thing, parents and kids. This is John, Sir Roland Squire. If you're part of our Dragon Slayers Training Guild, we'll be sending you a picture of Malefactor and Bucephalus this week, along with a discount code to Sir Wyvern's Dragon Slayers Manual, which is a great read for Lent. We're also going to send a link for the parents to my book, Ordinary Lives, Extraordinary Mission, 5 Steps to Winning the War Within, another great Lenten companion. This book has sold over 250,000 copies, and the secret to my success is that we give it away for free. All you have to do is pay the shipping. If you're not part of our training guild yet and would like to start getting all this stuff, just click on the link in the show notes and register for free today. Now don't forget, listen to Catholic Sprouts every day, including Saturdays with Sir Roland.
This show is a production of the Spoke Street Media Podcast Network. For more great podcasts, visit spokestreet.com.